job. And we didn't know how this was going to affect our contract with the company. So now we're having to make that explanation. CPI doesn't believe me, because he probably heard it from who he believes to be a credible source, and he's a retired officer out of Mississippi. He believes it. I don't know what's going to happen with that now.
I don't believe for a second that would come from anyone that was actually involved in the incident that has looked at that video, because they know there's a video, and that's not the case. The whole controversy.
We have officers saying that I listened to him. He said that I was pulled over. I was an asshole, refused to show my ID. The police department had to obtain a photograph of me to verify that I was an employee of the sheriff's office.
I'll tell you what we'll do. We will try to put that out to our supervisors, that is not the case.
Because they're not watching the video, it's all talking. That's how it works. That guy comes back, he's pissed off, he says, man, this asshole, he tells a story, and then it passes.
Let me make a statement about the whole situation. Jimmy Charlo is doing his job, but it was extended because of your response. And that just didn't need to happen. It did, and it's done. We don't have any animosity over this. It's no big deal to us. I talked to Greg about it. Greg is not upset about the whole situation. To him, it's not a big deal. It is a big deal with you. And I agree with you. There may be some erroneous information out. We will do our best to try to correct that. But all this other stuff people talking, we can't control it. But yeah, that stuff came about because of your response, the way you chose to take that thing, not because of the.
It was like a scene out of an action movie when several cars are stolen from a dealership in what's being described as a Mission Impossible style heist.
This is the second time I've used that very soon.
What if I told you?
Michael Wadley is hoping to get a boost in his U.S. Senate campaign with a
Sarah,
visit from
hello.
President
How
Donald
are you?
Trump. The GOP Senate hopeful posted on social media Monday afternoon that Trump will make a campaign stop in Rocky Mount tonight. The campaign says doors will open at 6 at the Rocky Mount Event Center. Wadley is among 5 other candidates who have filed for the GOP Senate nomination, and he has been endorsed
Hello,
by
how you
the
doing?
president. GOP Senator Tom Tillis announced earlier this year he would not be seeking a third term in the Senate. Former Governor Roy Cooper is the expected
everybody
frontrunner
doing
for the
today?
Democratic nomination. Candidate filing ends at noon today.
Ay, no. Al papá de tu novia no le gustó tu regalo. A lo mejor puedes conseguirle algo más en oferta. ¿Espera?
What's up, Sarah? How you doing?
Parece que sí llegarás al año nuevo.
We've loved dancing ever since we were together. First night that we started dating. And so when the sunrise came out, we would dance right there on the floor. It wasn't a pretty sight in some mornings, but he held me up.
We were told that, your attitude is a big piece of your brain. We feel we have a very strong bond with us. And at that moment, that's all we needed. And we were going to make the most of every day, whether tomorrow ever came or not.
What's up, Sarah?
We both had our careers. We both were, passionate about those careers.
We're just busy doing our thing, a happy living life, raising a family.
I honestly never felt ill. Rick did find a lump, went in and had a mammogram right away. I actually found out while I was caring for people with dementia. I was in a nursing home. My doctor called and he had the biopsy results. He just said, Suzanne, I need you to know that this is not good. You do not want to look this up.
Elizabeth has had a long reputation for being tough. And when HBO debuted The Sopranos in 1999, that reputation only grew.
I think The Sopranos kind of like introduced North New Jersey to a lot of people. You know, that there's Italian food stores there and markets.
In the historic Peterstown area, Elizabeth's got one of America's oldest Italian communities.
That's a very Italian neighborhood. That tends to be where most of the people are, where the Italian bakeries, the restaurants are.
Although 99.9% of the residents there are good old-fashioned law-abiding citizens, for nearly a century, the area was home base for one of the oldest mob families in America.
The Cavalcanti crime family was a Sicilian mafia family, and it actually was started in Ribero, Sicily.
The family goes back 100 years, and the Cavalcanti crime family is named after Sam the Plumber de Cavalcanti.
December 11, 1990, 6:47 p.m. The Rave Night Social Club, 247 Mulberry Street, Little Italy. FBI agents and NYPD detectives swarmed to the front door. John Gotti, the most famous mob boss in America, stood in handcuffs. Next to him, his underboss, Salvatore Gravano, 45 years old, built like a bulldog, known on the streets as Sammy the Bull. Gotti was smiling. He'd beaten 3 federal cases. He thought he'd beat this one too. He had no idea that in 103 days, the man standing next to him would become the biggest betrayal in mafia history. This wasn't just another soldier turning rat. Sammy Gravano was the underboss of the Gambino family, the second most powerful position in the most powerful crime family in the nation. He'd killed 19 men. He'd earned millions. He'd helped orchestrate the execution of a sitting mob boss in the middle of Manhattan. John Gotti trusted him with everything, and Gravano was about to burn it all down. This is the story of how one man's decision to cooperate with the FBI destroyed the Teflon Don, exposed the inner workings of La Cosa Nostra, and changed organized crime forever. From the streets of Bensonhurst to the Spark Steakhouse massacre, from construction rackets worth millions to a courtroom where a killer confessed to murder after murder. This is the rise and catastrophic betrayal of Sammy, the Bull Gravano. But here's what makes this story different. Gravano didn't flip because he got caught. He didn't flip because he was facing life. He flipped because he heard John Gotti on an FBI wiretap, throwing him under the bus, setting him up to take the fall for murders they both committed. The man he'd killed for, the man he'd made boss. And that's when Sammy Gravano made a decision that would echo through every mafia family in America. If Gotti was going to sell him out, he'd take Gotti to hell with him. Salvatore Gravano was born on March 12, 1945, in Bensonhurst, Brooklyn. His father ran a small dress factory. His mother kept the house. They weren't rich. They weren't connected. They were working immigrants trying to survive. But Sammy was different from his siblings. He had a problem with authority. He had a temper. And by age 13, he had a reputation. At 13, Gravano joined the Rampers, a notorious street gang that controlled Bensonhurst. One afternoon, some older kids stole his bicycle. Gravano didn't go crying to his parents. He found the thieves and fought all 3 of them at once. He got his bike back. Mobsters watching from a cafe saw the whole thing. They liked what they saw. A kid who didn't back down. A kid who handled his business. They remembered his name. By 16, Gravano had dropped out of Lafayette High School. School meant nothing to him. The streets meant everything. He ran with the Rampers, pulling burglaries, shaking down bookies, earning a reputation as someone who do the dirty work without hesitation. The older guys started bringing him in on bigger scores.
This holiday, the funds are here. Thousands of amazing gifts, all for way less. Fill your heart and card with big smiles and tiny prices. Only at Five Below, the best little toy shop.
season of the tortoise is fine.
New York City's Mafia, an organization of brutal gangs. To gain wealth and power, members strong arm businesses and kill anyone in their way. John Gotti was one of organized crime's fiercest members. He wanted to rule New York City. The police had to stop him.
John Gotti was ambitious, powerful, and ruthless. He ruled with flash and conspicuous style, playing celebrity with the media and cat and mouse with the FBI. They called John Gotti the Teflon Don. Serious charges just wouldn't stick. I'm Jim Kalsman, former director of the FBI's New York office. When John Gotti came to power in 1985, organized crime still had its tentacles spread into many legitimate businesses. Like a game of chess, crime bosses were well insulated by layers of pawns. The FBI's job was to penetrate their defenses and capture the king.
New York is the home of organized crime in America. Through intimidation, terror, and murder, the five families that make up New York's mafia have corrupted labor unions, run extortion rackets, and infiltrated almost every major industry in the city. Disputes among the crime families often erupt over who controls which union or what industry. These disputes are inevitably and violently resolved. By the 1970s, the Gambino family had emerged as the most violent and the most powerful crime family in the nation. As that decade came to an end, the FBI decided it was time to stop the mafia's reign of terror. The Bureau's New York office set up 5 squads assigned to investigate and bring down each criminal family. Special Agent Bruce Mao was assigned to supervise the squad responsible for bringing down the Gambino family.
The Bureau realized that we really weren't addressing organized crime here in New York, and so they formed squads to target each particular crime family and try to address the organized crime problem here in New York. So in 1980 we formed the squad, and our target was to put the Gambino family in jail.
The main targets of Mao's investigation were the leaders of the Gambino family. The boss, Paul Castellano, and his underboss, Neil Dellacroce. Castellano assumed leadership of the family in 1976, when Carlos Gambino, the namesake of the family, died of natural causes. The FBI were also targeting the most powerful captains in the family, like John Gotti. The captains controlled crews of soldiers who carried out the day-to-day criminal activity for the family. Castellano's crews would commit the actual crime that Castellano himself did not. Catching seemed impossible. As the FBI soon learned, the entire hierarchy of the Gambino family was well insulated. The family army consisted of over 50 captains and over 300 soldiers. It was a large and impenetrable secret society, accessible to outsiders only through the lenses of surveillance cameras. But federal racketeering legislation was passed that made ordering criminal acts as much of a crime as committing the crime itself. In order to successfully prosecute the hierarchy of the Gambino family, the FBI had to secretly get them on tape discussing their criminal enterprise. Mao and his team would have to patiently and methodically work their way into the destruction of the Gambino family. It would take years to accomplish that goal. Agents tried to learn more by speaking to residents in the neighborhoods where mob activity is held.
You're sure now? Yeah. But take a look. You might recognize one of you guys. Take a look. Take a good look. Take your time.
Few people were willing to talk. Only those on the inside could tell agents who were the real power brokers. Cooperating witnesses and informants had to be developed. Betraying the mafia meant certain death. Informants would be difficult to come by. But some were willing to take the risk. Most were low-level criminals, cutting deals with the government to avoid prosecution and long prison sentences. Whatever their motivation, they gave agents something they did not have before, a backdoor into the Gambino family's criminal operations. Castellano ran the family like a major corporation. Nicknamed within the mafia as the Pork, he used unions to strengthen his grip on various industries in New York. Louis Shalero, head of the FBI's New York office, is an expert on organized crime.
One of the most influential things that the Gambino family did was the control of the labor unions in New York City. They exerted at one time tremendous influence in terms of the
Manish, hello.
in terms of construction industry, trade unions, and in terms of the Teamsters and trucking. By controlling the trade unions in New York City, the Gambino family was able to control construction and certainly had a great influence in the garment center. And that generated tremendous amount of financial base to the family.
I'm good. How are you?
Castellano knew how to keep his interests under control.
I got you. Like, subscribe, and leave a comment, and I'll hit your profile. I'll follow you back.
You know, such a horror things. So even though Castellano was known as a bit of things down, he was a tough guy, he had a hair trigger and temper, and he carried it out of the head.
Getting to Castellano directly would be very difficult. His home in Staten Island was a fortress, under constant supervision by armed guards. He had also installed a sophisticated alarm system. Agents had no solid evidence to suggest that Castellano conducted criminal business in his home. Without such proof, a court would never authorize an FBI bug or a phone wiretap inside the home. Agents hit the streets. They hoped to find one weak link to exploit. One person in the family who made himself vulnerable to electronic surveillance. They learned through informants about a Gambino family crew headed by John Gotti that operated in Queens, headquartered in a private social club called the Bergen Hunt and Fish Club. A few of the FBI's well-placed informants were close to one of Gotti's lieutenants, a man named Angelo Ruggiero. Though known on the streets as the most vicious gang in the Gambino family, agents believed they found their weak link in Gotti's career.
And the reason we did was he had a lieutenant named Angelo Ruggiero who ran the day-to-day operations for Gotti and his crew. And Angelo was an attractive target.
I got you. I see the message.
Involved a lot of criminal activity. Number two, he had a big mouth. He talked a lot. He was a gossip and a blabbermouth.
Mal quickly established surveillance teams to identify, record, and log every person who entered the Bergen Club. Agents learned that John Gotti and his crew made money for the family primarily through hijacking, car thefts, extortion, and illegal gambling operations. Informants told agents that Ruggiero sometimes discussed family business on his daughter's phone. He believed the line listed in her name to be free of FBI bugs. Permission to wiretap a private telephone is granted sparingly. Agents must convince a federal judge that the target is engaged in criminal activities and that the wiretap is likely to produce more evidence. If conversations are not of a criminal nature, the wiretap must be turned off. The informant's statements were enough to convince a federal judge in late 1981 that Ruggiero's daughter's phone should be tapped. Mount's squad had found a way to infiltrate the Gambino family. The wiretapping of Ruggiero's phone proved to be one of the most successful wiretaps in FBI history. The conversations overheard by the FBI were dampened. But agents learned that Ruggiero also held meetings in his home with Gambino members. Mao and his squad had enough evidence to justify placing a microphone in Ruggiero's home. Agents slipped in, installed the bugs in his dining room, and left without a trace. The success of the Mafia has always been its ability to stay one step ahead of law enforcement. What Mao and his squad did not know was that a high-ranking police officer was on the Gambino payroll. Though the mole didn't know specific details, he leaked information to family members about ongoing investigations and electronic surveillance operations. Angelo Ruggiero became paranoid that his house was bugged. He searched the house himself, but found nothing. Unconvinced, he called in a professional to conduct a thorough search or sweep for bugs.
Jingle bells, jingle bells.
Camping World is America's used RV Supercenter. We have over 22,000 quality pre-owned RVs in stock that have been deep cleaned and odor neutralized, waste systems flushed and sanitized, and have a brand new mattress. Buy your next RV with confidence at Camping World.
Welcome to our annual Google Public Sector Summit. Gemini for Government. It's a new product we built that brings Google AI to the hands of all the people. It's a pivotal moment for government to transform like never before.
I am so excited to show you the front door for AI for your mission.
Don't wait for the perfect moment. The opportunity is now. You have the chance to lead now. Let's do it together.
Yeah, I need someone to come sweep my house, please.
Ruggiero ordered the sweep on a tapped telephone. When the FBI heard the conversation, they knew they had a crisis.
2345 Richmond Street.
You have a problem? The phone tap inside the home was immediately turned off to avoid detection.
How that work?
If discovered, it would destroy weeks of diligent work and send the squad back to square one. And there were no targets as talkative as Ruggiero. The sweeper arrived with the most sophisticated electronic detection equipment available. After 2 2 days of searching the house top to bottom, he was ready to report his findings to Ruggiero. 2 days after Ruggiero's house was searched for bugs, agents arrested the man who conducted the sweep of his house. What they learned was indeed shocking. He charged Ruggiero thousands of dollars for his services, but none of his detection equipment worked. He had swindled the mob. Fortunately, he had told Ruggiero his house was clean. It was a lucky break for the FBI. Not only had their bugs not been discovered, but now Ruggiero felt confident to speak freely in his house. And he did so with abandon.
What's up? How's everybody doing? It's Friday. What y'all doing today?
Slowly, the FBI was getting closer to the Gambino family hierarchy. To agents, the conversations were a gold mine.
Johnny, what's up?
As
How you
Ruggiero
doing?
met with his mob partners, the FBI learned of a major heroin trafficking operation conducted by Ruggiero and John Gotti's younger brother, Eugene. Over a 6-month period, Angelo and Eugene Gotti had distributed over 50 kilos of heroin in New York alone. The FBI had every last detail on tape. There was a mafia rule in effect that dealing drugs was strictly prohibited. The punishment for getting caught was execution. No appeal, no trial. Ruggiero did not have the boss's permission to deal drugs, and he knew the consequences. The government felt it had a strong case against Ruggiero and Eugene Gotti. In September of 1983, they were charged with running a major heroin distribution network and obstruction of justice. Though all of those indicted were part of John Gotti's group, his name was not mentioned in the taped conversations. But with the indictment, Castellano would soon find out that Gotti's men were dealing drugs. Learning of the heroin operation, however, was not the only valuable piece of information learned by agents. Just prior to his heroin indictment, Ruggiero would meet with other soldiers and discuss how he and John Gotti would go to Paul Castellano's house every Sunday for a family meeting.
And then Ed would give him a blow-by-blow what happened in Paul's house. The Pope did this, the Pope got that, he attacked this guy. Everything in the family we found out through Angela's big mouth. And then next day, other soldiers come over, of course, Angela to reconstruct what happened again. So we found everything was happening in the Gambino family. Thanks to Angela Ruggiero, John Gotti, and Paul Castellano.
Based on the Ruggiero wire, agents now have probable cause to bug the house of Gambino boss Paul Castellano. Getting into Castellano's house took detailed planning and methodical execution. Agents managed to get inside the house and place the bugs. Soon after, they began taping conversations that directly implicated Paul Castellano as the
Nayeli, what's up?
the man who oversaw a
Hello.
multitude of illegal rallies that cost taxpayers millions of dollars each year. Castellano would meet with his most trusted captains to discuss business. The FBI identified one of those captains as Sammy the Bull Gravano. As his nickname implied, the Bull was both strong and aggressive. He was a boxer and a bodybuilder. He was also the family's top enforcer.
No, snap.
Family in the construction industry. He was adept at a number of criminal activities, but his most notorious skill was murder.
Nelly, I'm not subscribed to you yet.
Powerful captains in the family like
The
John
hell?
Gotti and Sammy the Bull. Their
The
sights
hell?
remained focused on the boss.
Damn, I am now. Look, mother.
In 1985, 2 years after Ruggiero was indicted, Paul Castellano was arrested and charged, along with other New York family bosses, with dozens of federal racketeering conspiracies. Out on bail, Castellano continued to run the family, so his attention seemed focused on how to beat the government's case against him.
Is Ty there? Oh, he's working right now.
He was also facing his own legal trouble.
Oh, she can hear me. What's up, big head?
And his mentor, underboss Neil Della Croce.
What's up, big head? What you doing?
Della Croce and Gotti were released on bail, allowing them to continue their criminal operations. Months later, Della Croce lay dying of cancer. The FBI had bugged his bedroom. Gotti and Ruggiero visited, and the FBI was listening. They recorded Gotti talking about his fears that Castellano might kill him and Ruggiero for getting caught on tape discussing their drug dealings and for leading the FBI.
I just got up a little while ago. I didn't go to bed till like, I don't know what time it's late. I mean, I fell asleep last night for a little while, and then I woke up. I didn't go back to bed till like 6.
Della Croce's loyalty to Gotti was causing a rift in the family.
Oh, nice. Tell him I said, what's up? What's up, dog? It's cracking, macking.
The Gambino family was splitting in two. Then, in early December of 1985, Neil Della Croce, the Gambino family's second in command, died of cancer in his home. On December 16th, 2 weeks after Della Croce's death, Castellano and his new underboss, Tommy Galante, pulled up to a fashionable steakhouse in Midtown Manhattan to meet some associates for dinner. As they started to exit the car, several men approached them and began firing.
Shit.
Castellano and Galante never knew what hit them. They were killed instantly. When the boss of a family is assassinated, the FBI believes that the person responsible is usually the one who steps up and assumes leadership of the family. It was mafia tradition to pay tribute to a new boss, to show him respect. 2 weeks after the murder, agents watched a parade of high-level Gambino family members enter the Bergen Hunt and Fish Club. They were meeting with John Gotti. Agent Mao and his squad would have to restructure their attack on the Gambino hierarchy. John Gotti was the new boss of the family. Agents pieced together his criminal history and traced his rise to power. John Gotti became a Gambino family associate around 1970. He impressed the boss in 1973 by killing a man who had kidnapped and murdered a relative of Carlos Gambino. Gotti served 2 years before he was paroled. Upon his release, he quickly gained respect within the family. He began to make a great deal of money for the family through loan sharking and gambling operations. In his neighborhood, he became a hero of sorts, throwing huge 4th of July parties every year, complete with fireworks. Special Agent George Gabriel was assigned to Mao's squad in 1985. He quickly became an expert on John Gotti.
He took care of it. If there were old ladies that were in need, if he had money in his pocket, he'd give it out. He was in some respects a Robin Hood in his neighborhood. And that's how he carried himself. But how did he make that money? By killing, by robbing, by manipulating, by bribing, by controlling rackets that he didn't have a right to control. And that's just like when he didn't like you, when you fell on the wrong side of John, you died. I mean, there was no mercy. You died. There was no two ways about it.
Gotti was now the king. He found himself in command of a multi-million-dollar crime network made up of scams he did not know existed. He had a lot to learn. With their bugs and surveillance, Special Agent Gabriel and the rest of the FBI squad learned right along with him.
John Gotti took over that family. He had to learn what the rackets were, and as he's learning them, we're learning them. Who's got what industries? Who's collecting from what unions? He's asking captains to give him a list of all the soldiers in there and their crews, so he could know who he's got in his family and how many.
Gotti was the boss, but he still had legal troubles. 6 months after becoming the head of the family, he was sent to jail to await trial on loan sharking and gambling charges. Jail didn't slow him down, though. From his cell, Gotti ordered a murder. He was against Robert DiBernardo, who had been a close associate of Gotti. DiBernardo's assassination was set up by Angelo Ruggiero, who was still awaiting trial for his 1983 drug indictment.
Angelo's one of the few guys who's got access to John in jail and tells him that Robert DiBernardo is talking subversive behind John's back, the boss's back. He's saying that John isn't fit as the boss and we should appoint somebody else as the boss. Angelo wants this done because Angelo owes Robert DiBernardo a lot of money and he doesn't want to pay him back.
I was going over some of these contracts here. The public housing contracts.
On Gotti's behalf, Ruggiero asked Sammy the Bull Gravano to set up the hit.
Did you want some coffee? Yeah, that'd be great. Give us some coffee.
On June 5th, 1986, DiBernardo showed up for a meeting at Gravano's construction office. Everyone greeted him as usual. DiBernardo must have suspected nothing.
You know, we got all those contracts.
He was shot in the head from behind. His body was never found. The FBI learned of his death through informants. Agents believed Gotti's crew was responsible for the murder, but they needed proof. In August of '96, 2 months after the DiBernardo hit, Gotti went to trial for the gambling and loan sharking charges filed 2 years before. But Gotti had not been the primary target of that indictment. The case was originally designed to bring down underboss Neil Della Croce. The case against Gotti was never that strong, but an ambitious U.S. attorney saw an opportunity to get a mob boss. Though the case did not involve Mount Squad, he sent George Gabriel to observe the trial. During a break in the proceedings, Gabriel came face to face with his adversary.
I introduced myself. I told him I'm George Gabriel. I'm with the FBI. I work on Bruce Mouse Squad. He says, you tell him I'm going to be home in 6 weeks. I'm going to beat this one. I said, right, I'll deliver your message. I said, and if you do, I'll be there to congratulate you because it'll be a good job on your part. He says, good, I hope to see you.
On March 13th, 1987, Gotti was acquitted on all counts. George Gabriel made good on his promise. After the verdict, Gabriel went to the Bergen Hunt and Fish Club in Queens, where Gotti was having an acquittal party. He congratulated Gotti. To the press, the public, and to prosecutors, John Gotti seemed untouchable.
Meet our TurboTax experts in person and let them do your taxes for you. Now this is taxes.
Introducing Smart Search from Homes.com, a new way to search the way you speak. Built for every search, from basic to voyeuristic. Whatever you're looking for, find it with Smart Search.
Out of jail, John Gotti resumed his celebrity status. Around town, he was seen at fine restaurants and glitzy nightclubs, always immaculately dressed. Already he was known as the Dapper Don. Now, with his acquittal, he earned the title of the Teflon Don. Charges slid right off him. To the media, he was glorified as the underdog who took on and beat the government. But now, it was Mao's turn to make a case against Gotti.
I get upset when I glorify a guy like that. To me, he's just a common thug, a criminal, he's a terrorist. He doesn't believe in our government, he doesn't believe in voting, doesn't believe in church, doesn't believe in family. He's a mass murderer. How can you glorify this guy here, make him a role model for your kids? That's pretty upsetting.
In order to make his case against Gotti, Mao had to find out where he was conducting his business. The FBI bugs planted at the Bergen of Hunden Fish Club had dried up. Since becoming boss, Gotti wasn't spending as much time there. The squad leaned hard on informants to find out where Gotti held his high-level meetings. It took 8 months, but in early 1988, they finally found Gotti's new headquarters. Gotti turned the Reaganite Social Club in Little Italy into his headquarters. It was a symbolic gesture on Gotti's part. The Reaganite was his mentor Neil Delacroce's old club. Here, Gotti would meet with his captains to conduct family business. Agents rented an apartment down the street from the Reaganite. A high-powered camera was installed to record all those who came and went from the club. In February of 1988, the FBI earned court approval to bug the Reaganite. With 30 or 40 people in the room, deciphering conversations was different. Cassette tape recordings of white noise were always being played in the club. Hearing conversations through that was impossible. But the FBI had to have John Gotti's orders on tape in order to charge him with running the Gambino family. So far, the bugs in the Reaganite had not produced much evidence. Gotti always suspected he was being listened to by the FBI, and he found clever ways to avoid being overheard.
John Gotti was notorious for going on what we described as a walk talk, where he and the person he had to discuss something secretive. Not all mob business is open to everybody in the mob. There were times where a captain would have to speak with his boss. John Gotti would take that person and they'd go outside. Going outside, they're evading the possibility of a bug.
No matter what agents did, it seemed the mob was anticipating their every move, at times even taunting them.
When I would sit in the van outside the Ravenite, they would bang on every van on the street and whisper, "We know you're in there." You get made all the time, and you try your darndest not to, but it happens. And you just have to stay with it.
John Gotti ordered another hit out of range of the FBI bugs. This time, it was Louis Melita, a Gambino soldier whose loyalty to Gotti was suspect. Gotti felt Melita was a threat to the family administration, since Melita had been a close business associate of Paul Castellano and Tommy Delato. Sammy the Bull agreed to oversee it. He too had little use for Melita. Sammy felt he was trying to move in on the construction industry. Melita was shot dead under Gravano's supervision and never found. The FBI learned of the hit through informant rumors. But again, there was not enough hard evidence on Gotti to arrest him. Gotti was ordering people killed right under the FBI's nose. The cat and mouse game intensified, and so did the pressure on the FBI to stop it from ordering more killings. Mal knew he was overlooking something. Gotti must be talking about it, but the FBI didn't know where. In December 1988, Bruce Mal decided it was time to shut down the wire and regroup.
It's a very frustrating time because we knew we were so close, and we had these guys on videotape. We see them coming and going. We saw the walk talks around the street. We were so close, but yet so far away from achieving our goals.
The bugs were shut down, but the FBI's Gambino squad would not give up. They developed a new informant who told them Gotti would sometimes be in
What's up, people? What's up?
with one of his men in the Raven. Then abruptly, they would leave the table and go into a hallway behind the club. Usually they were gone for 10 or 15 minutes. The meetings in the hall were no doubt incriminating ones. And in a quiet hallway, FBI bugs could pick up more of the conversations. The squad quickly took advantage of the opportunity. In October of 1989, agents bugged the hall. They recorded Gotti meeting with several Gambino family members there. The bug produced some evidence against Gotti, but not the evidence they needed to put him away for life. Gotti had to be meeting his men in another location within the building. Somewhere where he felt comfortable and safe. In the fall of 1989, agents learned from informants about another location within the building that Gotti frequented. Nettie Sorelli was a widow. Her husband, Michael, had been caretaker at the Ravenite Club. When he died, she remained in the apartment they shared, just 2 floors above the club. It was believed that Gotti used Mrs. Sorelli's apartment to talk about sensitive family business. Getting into Mrs. Sorelli's apartment undetected was going to be a problem. She rarely left. As the FBI Special Operations Squad tried to figure a way in, agents learned that Mrs. Sorelli would be leaving town for the Thanksgiving holiday. It was the opportunity they had been waiting for. Agents went to work. They sneaked into the apartment in the middle of the night and placed the bugs. On November 30th, 1989, the first conversation taped in Mrs. Sorelli's apartment came over the wires. Crisp and clear, all participants talked freely. They spoke directly, using no code words or sign language like they often did when a bug was discovered. For weeks, agents listened in on the apartment conversations. On December 12, 1989, they got the biggest break they could ever hope for. That day, Gotti and his underboss, Frank Locascio, met at the apartment. In a rambling conversation, Gotti left a trail of evidence that would later haunt him. He explained labor union rackets and other crimes. and he talked about ordering the murders of several people. The agents monitoring Gotti that night could barely believe their ears. More shocking to agents was what they heard Gotti say about Sammy Gravano. For over an hour, Gotti went on a verbal rampage about Sammy. He said Gravano was getting greedy, taking too big of a cut from the construction racket profits. He was becoming too active in the family, not respecting Gotti's authority. Gotti suggested that 2 murders that he himself had ordered were because Sammy was trying to protect his own interests. According to Gotti, Sammy had suckered him into murdering DiBernardo and Melito.
It's a very important conversation because during this long diatribe, John confessed to 2 murders. He confessed to ordering the hit on Robert DiBernardo. He confessed to ordering the hit on Louis Melito. Both he claimed that Gravano's urging to have murdered.
What's up?
He
What's
also
up?
talked about a 3rd guy named Louis DiBernardo who was going to murder another partner of Sammy's. John detailed also his control of different labor unions. He also detailed how much money he's taken from different illegal activities. This is our smoking gun. This is the best tape of the entire electronics event.
After recording a few more conversations, the wire in the apartment was turned off in May of 1990. For Mao's Gambino squad, all the years of patience had finally paid off. They had the best evidence they could imagine, and it was John Gotti himself. Over the next few months, agents put together their case against Gotti. The case against the Gambino family hierarchy, which began a decade earlier, was ready to come to a close. On December 12, 1990, exactly a year after Gotti's fateful conversation, Special Agent George Gabriel and 2 others went to the Ravenite Social Club. Their purpose was to arrest John Gotti, Sammy Gravano, and Frank Locascio. Backup officers were close behind, or so Gabriel thought.
When I went into the club to arrest them, they had just ordered coffee. And myself, my partner, and one of the police officers kind of accidentally went into the club ahead of the rest of the arrest team. We were about a minute ahead of everybody. So there we were in the classic, we've got you surrounded, and we're looking behind us, and there was nobody there. But there wasn't a problem. Everybody complied with what we asked for. And either John or Sammy asked if they can have their cup of coffee. And I said, yeah, go ahead. We got plenty of time before we leave.
On his way to be booked, Gotti asked Agent Gabriel what he was charged with. Gabriel ran down the list and told Gotti of the taped conversations, especially in the hallway in the apartment. At that, Gotti fell quiet. At a bail hearing a few days later, the 3 defendants heard excerpts from the FBI's tapes. They played a segment from the December 12th conversation. Sammy Gravano heard Gotti bashing his character.
For the first time in life, John Gotti was embarrassed. He was turning shades of blue and pink and trying to duck under the table. Sammy was turning red. He was hotter than a firecracker. And they kept looking at each other like, what's going on here? But that tape planted the seeds for the first time in Gravano's mind that he and John Gotti could never coexist. And one had to kill the other if they were to get out of jail.
Te lo mereces, así que alza esa cerveza. No solo das una mano, entregas el corazón entero, porque se siente bien hacer crecer a la comunidad que te vio crecer. Eres un luchador y esta es tu recompensa. Modelo, la marca de los luchadores. Celestials are a threat to our very survival.
I'm gonna get going, guys. I gotta get ready. I might go live later, though.
With Dupixent, stay ahead of your child's moderate to severe eczema with clearer skin and less itch. The #1 prescribed biologic by dermatologists.